How's it going, everybody? Hope you're having a great day so far. Today is Friday, and so that means that we are taking a look at our top buy and top sell this week in the Edgefinder. So we start off like we always do, taking a look at the market heat map first. And here in the market heat map, we have all these boxes, red and blue. Blue is buy and red is sell, and the darker the blue, the stronger the buy. The darker the red, the stronger the sell. If you've never seen one of these videos before and you're wondering what you're looking at, we are looking at our top movers of the day. So far today, with all the data that we've pulled in, these are the currencies that have moved the most one way or the other. So oil, from where it was yesterday to where it sits today, is our top mover on the buy section, whereas USD ZAR is our top sell compared to yesterday and where it is today. So we're going to take a look at our top 6 buys and top 6 sells really quickly. So up top we can see US oil, UK 100, German 30, Aussie US, SPX 500, and US 30. Not a lot of currency pairs, a lot of indices and commodities up there, but let's see. Let's look at our top 6 sells. We have Euro JPY, CAD JPY, Euro AUD, USD CHF, USD JPY, and like I've already mentioned, USD ZAR. So that's our top 6 buys and top 6 sells for the day in the market heat map. But we're going to take a look at the Scorechart Summary so that we can take a look at all of those pairs that we just saw and see their score breakdowns. So up top here, we have all of these different metrics that we score. COT data, retail sentiment, seasonality, trend reading, GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rate divergence. And we can see here the red and blue are similar to what we saw in the market heat map. The same rule applies. The darker the blue, the stronger the buy, and the darker the red, the stronger the sell. And so far today, we do not have that many strong buys. Our strongest score up here is actually USD TRY with a score of 5. Down here, we have 2 pairs that are tied for strong sell with scores of -7, and that's GBP CAD and GBP USD. So let's go ahead and start off. I've been flip-flopping recently, doing one or the other each week that I do one of these. So I think last week I started with our buy. This week I'm going to start with our sell. Because we have the US dollar in this pair up here, I'm going to pick GBP CAD because it doesn't have a dollar pair in it. So click on that. Here's a free Discord channel every Forex trader should join. You get access to daily trade ideas, market scans, and market coverage for what's happening in the Forex world today. See what professional traders are thinking on things like GBP JPY, gold, and Euro USD. And the best part, it's totally free. Click the link on this video and it will take you to a Telegram chat with one of our team members. Send them the word apply and we'll get you in the free Discord shortly after. And it'll take us into the GBP CAD page where we can see lots and lots of information. And don't forget, the Scorechart Summary is not the only place where you can find the Scorechart Summary here, not the only place that you can get to all this information. We have these little columns right here. Click on one of these, takes you to all of our different currency pairs. Here we are in GBP CAD, so I can click on any of these to quickly switch in between them. So we're going to start like normal, taking a look at these scores and moving our way down. We have our strong sell bias here with a score of -7, and our COT data is scored at -1. We have the numbers for that right over here. So taking a look at COT data, we see the pound sits at 40.02% long and 59.98% short, while the Canadian dollar sits at 62.97% long and 37.03% short. Now what we're looking at here is COT data, so that means that we're looking at institutional trader data, or what the big institutional companies, the people that are getting paid lots and lots of money to trade, this is what they're buying and selling. Our retail sentiment is right next to it. We can see that it has a score of -1 as well. And our retail traders, our everyday day traders, are 87% long and 13% short. Okay, seasonality report, -1. We have our seasonality chart here. And if you have not already seen my video on seasonality or COT and retail data, COT data and retail sentiment for that matter, go check it out on the channel. The past week and a half or so, I have been doing Edgefinder how-to videos where I'm going through every single aspect that the Edgefinder has to offer and doing a detailed breakdown of everything that you can do in that feature, why it's important, and where else you can find it in the Edgefinder. So they're all very useful information, very useful videos for a very useful tool. But let's continue right along. Seasonality, -1. We are in the month of September, so here are our numbers for that. We have our all-time average, last 5-year average, and current year average. This gray, red, and blue line here. And so historically speaking, September to October, we do see a very slight upward trend. Very small right here. And then moving from October to November, again, historically speaking, even further up. So that's something to keep an eye out for there. The reason that seasonality is important is because, well, history is important. Knowing what if a currency pair continues to always do the same thing in a certain month, it's useful to know what it's going to do in that certain month. For example, we can see here that going from May to June, that there's a downward trend here. And that is consistent with the all-time average, last 5-year average, and the current year average. So our all-time average is taking in data from many, many, many years, compiling it all together, and giving us an average price point. Last 5-year average does the same, but only for the last 5 years, so that it's more current information. And then our current year average is obviously what the pair has been doing this year thus far. But consistently, we can see that from May to June, there's a downward trend. So if we were in the month of May, this would have been useful information to know. So September to October, look for a slight upward trend. Is it guaranteed? No, but is it possible? Very, very likely. Trend reading, -2. That just means that this pair is moving down respectively. And we have our last 4 right here. We have GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates. So let's take a look at those numbers right over here. Pound GDP is -0.1% and Canadian dollar is 0.8%. Inflation for the pound sits at 10.1 compared to 7.6 for the Canadian dollar. Our unemployment rate for the pound sits at 3.8% compared to 5.4 for the Canadian dollar. And interest rates, 1.75% for the pound and 3.25% for the Canadian dollar. We can see that our interest rate divergence favors the Canadian dollar at plus 1.5%. And that is just the difference between these two numbers here. Subtract the greater number from the smaller number, and that's how we get 1.5. Okay, last thing to take a look at here is our daily chart, which again, I just did a video on price forecast, so go check that out on the channel if you haven't already. That's what we're looking at right here. So the daily chart shows you the daily average price for the pair. So we are September 9th. Here are our numbers for today so far. And we have this green, orange, and red line here as well. And what this is a price forecast prediction, meaning that the software is pulling in all of this data and predicts that if it begins to trend upwards, that green line there is some numbers around what we could see for this pair. If If it stays consistent with how it has been moving, that orange line is most likely numbers that we will see. And if it gets even worse and goes on a sharper downward trend, then the red line, again, is numbers that we could potentially see this pair sitting around. So keep an eye out on that. And let's go back to or before I do that, why don't I show you the scanner output summary and just explain this really quickly. The scanner output summary is our written summary of all of the information and data that you see here. So if you're the type of person that learns and retains information better by reading, then this will be super useful for you, as well as it explains why we score things the way that we do. It explains why, it's important, why unemployment and interest rate and things like that are important to take into account, and why it gets the score that it does. So feel free to pause the video and take a look at this if you'd like to read it. But I'm going to go ahead and move right along back into the Scorechart Summary, where USD TRY is our top buy of today. And I actually don't think that this is a pair that I've ever looked at before, so this will be interesting. So we have a buy bias, not a strong buy bias, but a buy bias nonetheless, with a score of 5. Our COT data sits at a +1 score, and we can look at our numbers here. We only have data listed for the US dollar, but that's okay. So the US dollar sits at 76.18% long and 23.82% short. Our retail sentiment is 100% short on the US dollar, and I believe it's only showing that 100% because we're not currently getting that information for TRY at the moment. But that's okay because we can continue on and look at, we still have our GDP, unemployment, interest rate, and inflation numbers here, as well as seasonality. So it's still worth taking a look at. Speaking of seasonality, we have a score of +1, and we can take a look at this here. This pair has been through a lot this past year, but here are the numbers for September. And again, historically speaking, moving into October, we're seeing a downward trend. And take a look at this red and blue line. This is why I say that history is important, because the all-time average is taking in so much more information than just the last 5 years. Yet these lines still do look very similar to one another. Trend reading, score of 2. That means that we are moving upwards respectively. GDP growth, -1. Inflation and unemployment, 1. And interest rates, -1. Take a look at these numbers here. We have TRY GDP growth 2.1% and USD GDP growth -0.6%. Inflation TRY 80.21% compared to USD inflation 8.5%. Unemployment 10.3% compared to 3.7% in the US. And lastly, interest rates 13% compared to 2.5% in the US. Daily price chart, last thing we'll take a look at. Here are the numbers for today. And again, we have our green, orange, and red line predicting what these prices could look like. And I'll show you, here are numbers for September 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Again, these numbers are not concrete evidence. These are estimated, validated predictions. We're taking in lots of information, or the software is taking in lots of information, and these are predictions of what price could look like. All right, so that was our top buy and top sell today in the Edgefinder. I'll go back to the home page because we have lots of useful information here that we can take a look at very, very quickly. We can see our top buys up here and top sells, which you've kind of already taken a look at. along with our strongest trends. Our COT data looks like, as far as institutional traders go, US oil is being bought the most at 76.3% long. And retail sentiment, GBP CHF, the pound Swiss franc pair, is 96% long. So is NZD CAD on the retail side. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you guys are enjoying these Edgefinder videos. It is such a useful tool for traders to navigate already such a difficult market. If you want the Edgefinder for yourself, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. You'll be taken to a Telegram chat where you can chat with one of our team members about getting access to the Edgefinder yourself, or you can check it out on our website, a1trading.com. We have lots of useful links there for the Edgefinder, other softwares, as well as our VIP Discord community. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week with more videos on the Edgefinder.